Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Chinnici Show. It's March 14th, 2018. I am really, really glad to be back on the air after a snow day last week where we didn't even really get to play in the snow, so it kind of sucked. But we're here. Johnny's still heavy. Mario's still stupid. And we have our very special guest and our good friend and brother, Mr. Dave Alvin, formerly of White Trash, and of his new project, Bone Monkey, which... Dude, the tracks are hot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know,
Thanks.
I'm digging it. It's definitely up anybody's alley who likes rock with a good little twist in it.
Right.
For sure. And I'm definitely totally feeling it. How have you been, brother? I haven't seen you forever.
Been good. I mean, you know, it's been a while, really.
Yeah, it has been way
It's
too
been
long.
a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world keeps spinning.
Yeah.
We're still here. You know.
You sounded like a Smashing Pumpkins song.
No, he wasn't whining through that statement, so it couldn't have possibly been a Smashing Pumpkins song. In my opinion, could have been one of the best bands in the world, but that fucking guy's voice could cut glass at 20 paces. Honestly,
So
I
true.
mean, I do. I love their shit. I think they're a really good band, but, you know, they're an ambitious sort trying to sell out, you know, arenas and yikes.
Well,
But
they're back now, right?
there's 3/4 of them back.
Yeah.
And they really I think that they took on a little more than they could handle at the moment as far as ticket sales go and stuff.
Oh, was that?
It's slow sales in big cities.
Well,
And that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not slagging on them or anything like that. I've always loved to see those type of bands anyway, in like more of a theater, a more intimate kind of a setup regardless.
Yeah, definitely.
You know? And that's a band that I've never gotten a chance to see. I really would love to see them. I think they're kind of cool and stuff. Like, you know, he knew how to definitely craft a tune for sure.
Yeah.
And that whole album that he wrote was awesome. So that was, you know, definitely good for him. You know, and but anyway, regardless, I'm getting off on a fucking tangent already. Before we really get started, I just wanted to thank everybody who tuned in a couple of weeks ago and checked out our Dan Nelson interview of Wolfpack Black and formerly of Anthrax. And that one, it happened to go worldwide. It got picked up by all the gossip sites and all that stuff like that. And that was very cool. A lot of people read it on there and stuff. And, you know, all the keyboard warriors had something stupid to say. But it was a great interview. Dan's a good dude. And he's got a good band. He's definitely got something going very well for him in the works. And a real, a real nice, humble guy. I mean, you know, he played to fucking, you know, over 100,000 people for a month and a half in Europe. And, you know, coming here to the States and opening for Maiden. You know,
Nice.
it would tend to get your head big. I totally get it. Not even a little bit. That guy's, he's real deal. So I definitely dig him. He's a good dude, and whatever success comes his way, God bless him. You know, so that was fun, and that was definitely a good time. And again, thanks for everybody for checking that out. And, you know, if you checked it out on our page, great. If you checked it out on Blabbermouth, that's great too. However you got it, and I'm thrilled to death that you did. So thanks for checking that one out. And
Excellent.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely good times. That's why I was pissed off that I missed last week. These fucking, you know, like, when does it stop with these snowstorms? It was even driving here tonight, and it was fucking snowing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Like, seriously? Like, it has to end, doesn't it?
Soon. Soon. Theoretically, it should end soon.
Yeah, you know, I'm definitely hoping so for sure. And you know, I hope everybody's weekend was good. I got to go to Monster Mania this weekend. Are you familiar with any of that type of stuff, like the horror conventions?
Yeah,
and
I've
shit?
never really been to any of them, but
It's so much fucking fun,
Yeah.
dude. It is.
my wife's been to some of them. She likes those.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to talk to Richard Dreyfuss this weekend, which is
Oh.
a real fucking thrill. That guy might be one of the funniest dudes I've ever met in my life, and he's tiny. He's so short, but what a great guy.
What monster? Oh, Jaws?
Jaws.
Really the only
you know,
I'm
Oh,
trying to think. I'm like, Goodbye Girl. Like, Marcia Mason's not that bad.
He was in a Piranha movie, actually. The Piranha
Oh,
3.
the remake. That's right. He was in
the remake, and he was on a boat in the lake, and he started.
Now
this,
I remember that.
He
Yeah,
started
yeah.
to sing "Show Me the Way to Go Home." So it was like an homage to Jaws.
Yeah.
he was so cool. He came out. There was like a line a mile and a half long for him.
God.
And we happened to be up close, like really, really up close. He like walking up and down the line talking to people, and people are just sitting there like, you know, this guy doesn't have all day, and he's,
Right.
you know, he takes your time at the, you know, like when you're at the table. He was throwing candy and shit at people. He was just having a good old time. Yeah, he was really funny, man.
Grab that shit, boy.
He, you know, and I'm just like, this dude was in fucking Jaws, What about Bob? Forget about George.
Yeah,
what about Bob?
Close Encounters.
Close
Oh, there's another one.
Dude,
There's another one,
classic.
Iconic movie.
yeah. So he has really done sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has. He has. I mean,
He's done a
sure.
shitload of movies,
You,
man.
you really got to
One
think
More
about
Time
it.
Around.
He's
right?
almost like
Oh, yeah,
like
once around.
Once around, whatever.
like a godfather to the modern day of sci-fi, because that really, like, you had Close Encounters, and then it was Star Wars, and all that, as far as mainstream goes, it took off from there. And these conventions get bigger every year. They get more and more mainstream stars. I get to talk to Kathleen Turner for like 10 minutes. Yeah.
V.I. Warshawski.
And, but it's hilarious because, like, I went with my wife, and she has this, like, dead baby doll, and his name is
what
Otis.
the hell is
That's Otis. Don't front on my kid. The fuck? Just because the kid's got a complexion problem, who the hell are you to make fun of him?
blood splattering out of his mouth?
Hey! Leave him be. Leave him be. But we brought Otis over to the table with us when we went to go get her autograph and the picture and shit. She wouldn't touch him. She would not. She was completely freaked out by him, which I thought was hilarious. Me and my wife were dying. We thought it was hysterical. But she was cool. We talked some stuff and everything about her movies and everything. She was real nice. And the guy from Candyman, Tony Todd,
Yeah.
he got a real kick out of Otis because he got to meet Otis too. It was just good times, and the highlight for my wife and partially for myself because I didn't get to have a conversation with him was Tim Curry.
Yeah, that's cool.
Tim Curry, for those not in the know, had a stroke a few years ago.
I heard about that, yeah.
And he's confined to a wheelchair. He can't. It doesn't look like he can move at all, but he definitely still has, like, from the way my wife described it to me, like, he still has a brightness in his eyes and he can still converse.
Wow.
So that was cool. It was nice of him to be there and take time with his fans and stuff. People were all sorts of excited to see him.
Wow.
And that was badass. I got to see Paul Rubens. I didn't get to talk to him though.
Wow.
But I mean, it's fucking Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
So that's cool in itself. And
Can you imagine the bumper promo?
if I could have got bumpers, believe me, I would have. It's so loud as fuck in there. There was a dude walking around doing interviews and stuff, and I always think when I go to these things, like, I should bring an iPad and a microphone and a rig. Listen, the guy carrying the iPhone and the rig and everything was getting bumped into. There was a million fucking people around.
Wow.
This other guy has a microphone. He looks like a fake wrestling manager walking around with a microphone. So whatever clips he was getting, they're fucking useless. So I was like, this guy wasted his whole day doing this. When he goes to fucking check this shit out and try to clean it up, it's going to be impossible. You know what I mean? Because there's just too many people around. The Saturday that we were there, it was so overcrowded. They oversold it. We spent half of our day in the hotel room because it was like, I went downstairs to get coffee. The elevator to the coffee shop is literally 10 steps. 45 fucking minutes later, I go back on the elevator. So this is how packed it was. It was just crazy. It was, but they oversold it. The more mainstream people that they get, the more tickets they sell. It's just part of the gig.
Sure.
Plus, they had the kids from the New It. Except for the Stranger Things kid, everyone else was there. John Carpenter, my wife got to meet from Halloween.
Cool.
Wow.
And I'm dying. I actually want to see his live show because he writes all that music.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, I'm real fascinated to go see that. He comes around to New York occasionally, and I'd like to get a chance to go check that out. But his line was massive, and my wife totally fangirled out. He walked past us Friday night, and he waved at us, and I thought my wife was going to collapse. It was hysterical. But it was cool, man. It was definitely like a good time.
Sounds fun.
And we got a convention coming to Long Island soon enough.
Yep.
A Kiss Expo, and it's coming on May 5th, Saturday, May 5th, and I might have an announcement about that soon. But they got some cool guests for a first time kind of a thing. You don't see a lot of these things out here, so
Right.
It's definitely taking a chance, and it's definitely a good idea because all these conventions are getting bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah.
So they've got J.J. French and Mark Mendoza from Twisted Sister as guests, Steve Brown from Trickster. Lydia Chris is coming. Bob Kulick is going to be there. Rudy Sarzo is going to be there. And I think there's going to be more names announced as time goes on. So, and that's a one-day thing. It's cheap to go into. It's $15 to purchase a ticket.
Yep.
I think it's $25 if you want the early admission. I mean, and that's a great day. I'm definitely going to break the bank buying merchandise. There's no doubt in my mind. But it's going to be rad. It's going to be a good time. I'm getting into doing these things more and more. And hopefully I'll be able to pop some interviews and get some sound clips and stuff like that.
Did you say pop?
What do you say?
Did he say pop?
You said pop.
Pop. Come on, Pop.
Your impersonation, you
Oh,
fucking
okay.
retard.
You said Pop. I'm like, Pop. Hey, Pop.
Forget it now.
It's over.
You could suck the life out of a room, I swear to Christ. Anyway, so it was fun. It was totally worth it. And you get to see all these people who are real big into horror, and obviously, when the music conventions and stuff come to town, the only thing that I'm never going to is Comic-Con because I'm not going through that kind of abuse.
See, it's a completely different experience when you experience. I mean, it's bigger. It's not just one genre. It's everything.
Yeah.
All over the place. And I told him, you got to go check out Comic-Con. You have to check it out.
And guess what I'm not doing?
I know you're not doing it.
I'm not doing it either.
It's a lot of walking around, but it's worth it.
Johnny, you hate everything. You have no sense of fun. Unless it involves motorcycles or eating, you're
Right.
basically punching out.
Barbecues, motorcycles, and beer. I'm good.
But it's a one-time thing, but we've been doing it every year. And then the one time Mark Hamill was actually there.
Yeah.
And then I'm about to leave the Javits Center, and so all of a sudden I hear this commotion behind me. It's like, out of the way, out of the way. It's Mark Hamill behind me. I turn around. He's like, I'm sorry, I gotta go. I'm about to grab had my camera, had my phone and everything. I was just about to take it. Some guy just came in front of me and took a selfie of Mark. That was my opportunity right there, and I missed out on it. I actually took that photo of it.
Wasn't that didn't that happen in The Simpsons? Something like that?
Something like
where
that.
Homer escorts, doesn't he become Mark Hamill's bodyguard or something?
He became
like
Mark Hamill's
Isn't that what happened?
Mark Hamill's body. Yeah.
There's definitely something to that effect. That shit never gets old. That's funny.
It's a one-time thing. I keep telling you, you got to do it, man. It's so much bigger than a horror con. It's
Totally not, because once I go into the Javits Center and some comic book nerd hits me in the nuts, it's on. It's just on. Like, if some dick in a costume is going to hit me in the balls, there better be money going in my pocket after that. That's,
yeah, and they're all over the place. The costumes are not just costumes. They're like, cardboard, styrofoam.
Yeah. I've seen people for, Comic-Con. Like, I've been in the city when it's going on, and you're, like, in a bar. And you're trying to figure out, what's this girl? It's like some kind of anime, I don't know.
Right. Some Japanese.
Yeah.
I have a tiny purse.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I can't handle that.
The one time I went, I basically went I got dressed up as an unemployed stormtrooper with a resume. And my resume had the name of the stormtrooper, TK-427. Previous experiences, engineer for the Death Star, fired proton,
It is
the gun.
a miracle that you've gotten laid in your lifetime. It is. God bless you, though. God bless your wife, really.
I don't think he got laid.
He had to have done something, I would imagine.
I don't think so.
But anyway, regardless, it was a good time. It was a good weekend,
Awesome.
And it's always a good way to promote shit. And, next year, when I have other things up and running, I'll be bringing down plenty of stuff to just hand out to people. And, we'll take it from there. If you're into horror, Monster Mania is definitely the way to go. And, like I said, I got to talk to Richard Dreyfuss, so everything else is fucking basically secondary from there. So let's get right into it. You got a new project, and, tell me how all of this came about after the death of Ethan.
Well,
or if it was in the works previous,
It was. So basically what it was, going back, like way back, after the second White Trash album,
right?
Me and the drummer, Dave, we were working on a new project. We had ended the White Trash thing, and we were working on some new stuff. And I was playing guitar, he was playing drums. It was sort of like, like a White Stripes kind of setup before White Stripes. It was just, right. But not on purpose. We intended to get a bass player and stuff. But that's what it was, And we had a bunch of songs, we were working on them. And, we were having a good time with it. Around that time, there was like a lot of bad stuff going on in my life. So, like one weekend, I kind of just found myself in the hospital, ER, freaking out a little bit and stuff. And
I totally understand.
That was a wild weekend. And that was pretty much it, for me as far as music. For a long time, I was just sort of fried and done and changed like everything about my life. And,
Right.
And so all that shit just kind of went away. And I was kind of like, whatever. And I was trying to do film stuff and, long story.
Right.
But anyway.
And when you moved out to the West Coast and stuff like that.
So then, years later, came back. We were doing the White Trash thing. Got back in touch with everybody. so White Trash had done an album, and then I was talking to Dave, and Dave Barkow is his name, and right now what he does is like he's like a one-man band, like he plays guitars and drums with his feet, and
Oh my god.
and now his wife is part of it, but he's like it's like he's part of the Irish music scene, and he's like a song stylist. He's got a whole thing that he cultivated. It's just him, and now his wife is part of it too. But so he works like every night, like 3 gigs a night. Like he'll literally have a gig across the street from the other bar, like run across the street in between sets. Like he's the hardest working guy in show business.
That's
right now.
awesome.
So But so what happened was, we keep in touch, and then he blew out his voice, like he had a note or something like that. And
I've done that.
and he had like downtime, and we were talking about all those songs that we had worked on and stuff, and I was like, oh, we should, we should really have recorded some of that stuff. That was stupid. And then he was kind of like, well, I have time now because I got 3 weeks before I can sing again and all this stuff.
Right.
So I was like, you know what, let's just fucking do it. And we just got together, jammed a couple of times, and I got him in the studio. I got him to put the drums down. And then I was like, cool, I'll take it from here. I'll do everything else. And that was, 6 years ago. Right? So then White Trash was going to do another album, like the last record that we recorded.
Right.
And that kind of fell into the background. And
Of
I did
course.
the White Trash thing. And then, and I always intended to go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Then, unfortunately, Ethan passed away a little more over a year ago.
Yes.
And in the aftermath of that, there was, whatever grief I felt, obviously, Aaron felt quadruple that.
I
He has
can't
a
even
son
imagine.
and and an ex-wife, and so my feelings are very irrelevant, sort of. But I was really feeling bad, because I was like, wow, like after everything we've done, it kind of just ends here. Like this is it. And you guys brought me in. We talked.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
but it was definitely the right thing to do to end it there. But it was, I really just sort of felt like, wow, man, like I enjoy playing. Like, I just want to keep playing.
Yeah.
So what was sitting there was all this stuff, and I was like, you know what? I got to finish it. I got to do something with this. This is, the next piece of the puzzle. Let's start working on this. And that's where it all came from. And
Right.
then I got my shit together and started recording and brought in some other people, and that's where it's at right now. It's like I don't know if it's like a full-on band as much as it's a project,
Right.
because everybody's got 1,000 things going on these days.
It's always the
obviously,
way, man. Yeah.
But it's coming together and it sounds good. So, that's where we're at.
Well, why don't we play a song, and why don't you pick which one we should play first?
We could start off with "Girl." That's a good opener, old school, Hendrixy kind of thing. And
Are you the only guitar player in this band?
well, on the recordings, I'm playing the guitar.
Right.
We do have a guitar player that plays live, Mark Pincus, who's I've known since I'm like 13. He's
Right.
an amazing musician, and but on the recordings, it's just me
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just you, and it's just Dave on drums.
and a bass player, Rich Guerzon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Mario, you got this queued up.
Yep.
All right. We're gonna check out a track from Bone Monkey called "Girl."
Is this a video?
No, it's just audio.
It's all audio.
It's audio.
We're gonna check out a track called "Girl," and we'll be back in like 3-4 minutes.
Some people say love can be blind. Other ones say it's just a big waste of time. But all that I know is that now
And we're back live. Dave, that's killer, man.
Thank you.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, man, that's definitely awesome, bro.
Thank you.
It's,
Love
it's in your wheelhouse for sure. It's definitely different than from what you've done in the past for sure.
Yeah.
But it has those elements, obviously, because, you know, you're on
Right.
songs.
Well,
You
right.
know? But it sounds, I like it a lot.
Thanks,
you know,
man.
it's definitely got good, it's very melodic.
Yeah.
And I was saying while we were listening to the song, the bass sounds fucking amazing. Like,
Yeah,
I
you did
love
a
that
great
tone.
job.
It's so killer, you know? And, you know, like you were saying, it's almost making a record today is, it might be a bad parallel, but it's so simple and almost dumbed down to the point. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Where you can fly tracks into anybody, and you can have an album done in a heartbeat for a fraction of what
Oh
you know
yeah,
what
but
it would
that's
used
the
to cost
thing
you.
is that it's so like it's all there for you to do it. So
Right.
that kind of was like for me at the end of the day was like, well, why not do it? Like why? If you have an idea, you know what I mean, and you have some kind of audience, you have somewhere to get it to, like just do it. Like
Yeah.
what's the worst? You fall flat on your face, and then you're all right. I'll write something else. So
Right.
sorry, my bad. I'll try something else.
Right. And, you know, at this point in our lives, you know, you're an artist. You know what I mean? You paint a different picture on a different palette for people, you know, and obviously first and foremost you dig it, and then you put it out there and you hope others dig it. At the end of the day, you know what? Even to me, like, and I'm trying, like, in my heart, I want to do original music again.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I don't even care what anybody thinks. As long as I dig it,
Yeah.
somebody's bound to like it, you know?
No, definitely. I mean, like, I'm definitely like a process kind of guy. Like, I like making shit. So, you know, it's like, okay, I want to work on this. And then you get into the process, you make it, and then, you know, you make something and then you put it out. You don't know what's going to happen with it. You
Sure,
know,
of
like
course.
with White Trash, we had, like, The Crawl became Jon Stewart's theme song. And you have no intent that that's going to happen.
Right, you just
know
you
what
don't
I
think
mean?
of it like that, right?
So, you know, you just make shit and you put it out in the world, and then it's like having a kid in a way. Like, you're like, all right, don't fuck shit up. Like, good luck, you know? Be a good dude. Like, you know, don't fuck things up.
Exactly. My parental advice is don't be an asshole.
So yeah, it's great that, you know, I'm kind of like embracing the idea of like projects now of, I mean, for me, it's never like I'm never really going to be able to replace the void of the White Trash thing, you know, because that's family and
That's different.
and
man.
it's you know, you're talking about like a quarter century of music and you know and drinking and laughing and you know fighting and you know what I'm saying. So there's
Yeah,
no way to
absolutely.
replace that at
No,
all.
ever.
Like, and that's not what this is. It's just that you know. There are so many good musicians, and all the recording equipment is so accessible now
Yeah.
that it's very easy to just go in your basement and just fart something out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Hopefully, you can edit the good ideas from the bad ideas, and hopefully, I'm
Exactly.
doing that. But you know, I just kind of like I'm embracing the idea of you know of doing a lot of projects now and trying to. So this is like the first thing I'm trying to do, but it's already kind of splitting off into something else because, like as I was saying, we recorded it, and Dave isn't really in this project now because he's got a full-time gig.
Absolutely.
And so there's a different drummer, you know what I mean? And there's a guitar player involved. They're not on this recording,
Right.
but I plan on doing recordings with them. And whether that's also going to be Bone Monkey, I'm not sure. So I'm kind of like at this point where I'm thinking like just open Pandora's box and like trying to do a lot of things.
Right. I mean, you have a creative outlet, you know, and obviously you have a bank of creativity to get out there. It almost, in this day and age especially, it almost seems senseless to do one thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
where you have all these multifaceted colors to paint your palettes with. You know, I think that's very cool, you know, and I think that it's very, what's the word for it? Like, it's almost like worldly in a sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you just don't have your blinders on going in one direction. Like, you're wide open to whatever spectrum of sound crosses your mind and
Yeah.
your heart and your ears, you know?
Well, I mean, the world is just different. You know what I mean? Going to clubs and stuff, that's not really a thing anymore. You know what
Right.
I mean, we go because we're older.
Right.
Kids aren't doing that, and if they go to clubs, they go to different clubs. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So live music. I mean, you know, like we were talking about, like Smashing Pumpkins maybe having trouble. Although I'm sure they're going to do great on their tour.
I'm sure they won't have a problem either.
But you know,
it's just a current
Slayer's
situation.
wrapping it up, Sabbath's wrapping it up, Rush is wrapping it up because the landscape is different, and you know those arena bands, that's how you make money.
Yeah, of course.
Being an arena act, because you play Revolution.
Right, I'm not paying my mortgage with a Revolution.
You might
paycheck.
have to give a blowjob to get a ride home or something. You know what I mean?
Well, today's the day to get it.
So, but it's just the reality. You can't really make money that way. I don't care how much merch you're selling and stuff. So you have to love it, and the people that do it because they love it. They
Absolutely.
just want to play, and they're committed to it. But the economy isn't really there for it. I mean, Paul McCartney can play, and people are going to go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it's hard. So I mean, I think music is it's a different music scene. So it's about reinventing how you get the music out there, how you interact with fans, and I don't know that the live thing is the way to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's
as
funny
much as I like playing live.
Right. I was just going to ask you about that because it is a different animal today. Does in your mind? How does it translate over to live now? Because, I was talking to somebody today about our local scene here on Long Island, and I know we're in an insulated little type of bubble here. Even with the fact of New York City being 25 miles away, it's still a different world once you cross over to that bridge. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, there are. Now I'm starting to see a lot more talented and multifaceted groups than I used to. And that's foregoing the tribute bands that are out there and the cover bands. And I mean, you wipe that away, and that's fine. I'm not slagging on it. Believe me, I make my own musical living off of that stuff. There's no way I would put it down. But even for original music, bands are playing different stuff. It's not like, years ago where, all right, well, look, hard rock is dead. Now there's 27,000 hardcore bands, 27,000 death metal bands, and, that's it. So in order to survive, either you do that or you're left by the wayside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you can go on any given day or night. There are more little bars opening. You have little bars, you have bigger clubs, and you have even like theaters out there that are putting in local bands, and a lot of them are sounding different and bringing something. I'm not going to say new because no one's doing anything new, but something a little different to the table instead of churning out 5 bands that sound exactly the same because one band had a moratorium of success, and that's happened here on the island.
Yeah, sure.
So that's why I'm fascinated by it because, does it translate for you? Does it translate more into a live thing, or is it because maybe the recordings, people are able to make records and put them out there, and they're able to explore their craft a little more because they don't have to go out and play live every weekend. Yeah. And they can concentrate on that songwriting craft and maybe put out something that's got a little bit of a twist or a different flavor to it. I mean, what do you think about that?
It depends. I mean, I think, for me, I think, like I said, the process of the recording and making stuff, I enjoy that.
Right.
So I could do that indefinitely.
Right.
I'm sort of embracing that idea.
Right.
That this isn't going to end. It's just going to mutate and grow and regress and die and come back and in many different ways. So for me, that's what it's about right now. Is just doing it and not worrying about the old. Whatever it's a new paradigm or whatever you want to say. But the point is that we did play a few shows like tune-up shows. We played Revolution and a couple other places.
Yeah.
But that was more to go out and gel with the new band because we weren't really a band. We weren't. It's weird if you just put guys together in the studio. I mean, there are plenty of projects like that, and if you're playing with good musicians, it's going to sound good.
Right.
But being a band is more than that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like I said, arguing, drinking, fighting, all that stuff. So, we're trying to do some of that, but and hopefully we'll play more. But but it's not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. First of all, our age, right? When you're younger and you start a band, you're hanging out all the time and going to clubs and all this stuff.
Sure.
Now, I go home after this is done and I play with my kid and, you know what I mean? I watch the Giants on Sunday. It's really not that exciting. You know what I mean? It's normal. But the creative part of it is something that's important. And I'm trying other things besides just music.
I was going to ask you about that too because I noticed that you were getting back into film a little bit too.
Yeah.
What are you doing with that?
Right now I'm working on a web series that a friend of mine's an actor he was in Boardwalk Empire.
Okay.
And he was on vinyl. and he's been in some other movies and stuff like that. And he wrote a web series, and he started making it, and they were working with one guy, and then he asked me to direct an episode, which is cool because I haven't done anything in a while.
Sure.
So I came in and I did that, and now it looks like I'm going to do the rest of them. We just did a second one, so we're up to episode 4. Well, I don't know. There's going to be like 6, so we got 2 more to do. So that's going good. It's pretty funny. The whole premise is that there's a guy and a girl that they're actors in New York, and they can't get any acting work because all the British actors are getting the American parts with their flawless American accents. So they decide that they're going to pretend they're British to get the American parts.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was. So he wrote this funny. It's really funny, and so I won't give away the story. There's a few episodes up already. It's called Being British, and it's created by Joe Caniano. He was. Like I said, he was on Boardwalk Empire and Vinyl, and you'll recognize him if you see him. He's a character.
So wait a minute, an Italian actor working on HBO series?
Yeah,
Who knew?
yeah.
They've done that before. What?
Hey, bada bing, huh?
yeah. So, and he was on Sopranos. He had a small
Of course he was.
appearance on Sopranos.
Dead victim number 4, probably.
Yeah, he gets shot. Do you remember the guy gets shot in the chicken place? I don't know if you remember the.
I just started rewatching the.
That was him.
Yes.
That was
Wait,
Joe
wait,
Caniano.
was that barbecue chicken?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Hey, listen, tell him if he ever needs a fat guy with a negative attitude and different color hair, I'm down, man.
All right, cool.
Always love to be, I really need attention in my life. It's really what it comes down to.
So he's got this thing, and it's good. He's been getting feedback, and it's going good. So we got a few more episodes to shoot, and we're going to do that. Then we're supposed to work on a short film that I have. It's called We Could Be Superheroes, and it's about like two regular guys who, they can't get girls and stuff like that, and they decide like, hey, like, why can't we be superheroes?
That's
And
my part. There we go.
So they just sort of go to
Perfect.
the party store and cobble together some outfits, and they're superheroes, So we're gonna work on that, and I'm also working on a book.
Really?
Yeah, like a graphic novel kind of thing.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's called Barry the Conqueror.
Barry the Conqueror.
Yes.
Okay, so give me a bit of a synopsis on this.
It's about a middle-aged guy sitting in a bar. That's
That's it?
yeah. It's really not much bigger than that.
But see, that's fascinating though because it's such a great subject for a graphic novel.
Well, that's where we're at. You know what I'm trying to say? So,
Yeah.
I like to rock out like with this shit. That's cool because
Yeah.
you can, get your dick hard and bang your head or whatever. But there's other shit I'm playing around with too. And that's my thing is to encourage everybody, like, just fucking, all this shit's available. You can make movies, you can make music, you can write books, you can pay. Just fucking do it. Like,
Yeah.
you do it and get it out there. Show it to me on Facebook. I'm interested.
I just have an image of Barry the Conqueror being like some 40-something-year-old D&D player.
I
know one.
it's ironic too because in this day and age, you get anything you put your mind to. You do. The tools are out there for you to use.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, yeah, that's.
I
the
was
whole
talking to a
point.
friend of mine about doing a YouTube Impractical Jokers type series, but I kind of backed off on it because there's an Impractical Jokers type series. Because the concept was basically completely the same,
Yeah.
except with vulgarity in
Right.
it. And, all I need to do is get punched in the face by some homeless guy in front of Penn Station. And I'm like, all right, I'm out. Fuck this.
Yeah, but you get a lot of hits on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be like bum fights,
Yeah.
And that's it comes back to why I started doing this because I thought about it and I hated the fact that talk radio had lost its balls, and it did. It's I don't mind putting myself out there, and I'll lay myself like naked. Like if somebody has a question, I'm going to answer it. If so, good, bad, or indifferent, I have no shame about putting myself out there like that. And I don't feel like people do that anymore. There's too much of an image to protect, and people are scared of words, and, people need safe spaces and all this horse shit and whatever. So that bugged me. And then the music end of it bugged me. And I sat down and I thought about it to myself, and I'm like, I talked it over with myself, and I said, you know what? I could do it. And it was that simple.
Yeah.
I could do it. That was the end of it, And I didn't do it because like, for any other reason than I just thought I could. And when I put myself in front of a microphone, I still suck now. I sucked a lot more back then. But I was just like, this is so simple.
Right.
All you have to do is flip on a switch and talk. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I happen to walk out and get, great people in with me like yourself and Johnny. Mario came along for the ride, and if you ever want to listen to what bad radio is, listen to the show that Mario had to do by himself when my engine died on me
my God.
on the way to the gig. I'm like, you're just gonna have to go on the air without me. I had to call. I was on Ocean Parkway by Jones Beach. I was fucked. I was completely stuck.
Oh wow.
He was fucked. Listen to him. He was.
Listen,
He was fucked.
you were sweating like fucking Trump was going to throw you over the wall. So let's. I actually listened to it, and it was so mind-bogglingly insane that I had to go over to Mario. Just shut the fuck up. And I did the show literally from my bedroom on my cell phone. And it was we had to knock off like after 45 minutes because like I like the interaction with people. Like I could do a show by myself. I could literally turn the lights off and go.
Right.
Give me a subject, I'll fucking run my mouth for an hour and a half. But I like having people bouncing off of. I like talking to musicians. I like talking to artists. I want to get more comedians in here and
Right.
stuff like that. And guys like you who are seasoned, who experienced the road, who's been there, and to me it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And especially what you mentioned with the creative process, that's the most fascinating thing to me. Like, I don't want to know that you went on tour and you banged 20 chicks and you smoked a bunch of pot and drank a bunch of beer. Because guess what? Every dick who got on a bus did the same thing you did.
Exactly.
It's not exciting to me.
Right.
But when you tell me, how you wrote apple pie, I'm sitting here like this. I don't have to say anything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's where the fascination comes in for
Yeah.
me. And, delving into people's personalities a little bit and trying to dig out stuff from them. That's what always fascinated me about radio and was always interesting to me. When you had, in the day, good talk radio, I could sit in the car for hours and listen to it. A good interview, anything, a good story, whatever the case may be, and I felt that was missing. And there's an artistic form to this. Believe it or not, I don't do any show prep. Like I know who I have in here. Like if I have you coming in and you and I have never met,
Right.
I'm going to go over your Wikipedia. I'm going to know what's bullshit already, and I'm going to know what's not bullshit.
Right.
I'm going to pull that out, and then we're going to get to know each other that way, which is like what I did with Dan Nelson last week, what I've done with, like some of the Twist Sister guys or whatever.
Right.
And that's how I would work that angle and figure out how to have conversations with people. But obviously I have diarrhea of the mouth, and my head is always running 100 miles an hour. I go in 14 different directions, so it's a parallel, but I can definitely relate to where you're coming from. And the fucking acting thing is always something that I've wanted to do. Always.
All right, we'll find something for you.
And like I said, with this, I have to have a gift of gab and bullshit, otherwise I will be alone for the rest of my life. So I can work as an actor.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, exactly. I want to get into another song from Bone Monkey. What do you want to do next?
All right, we'll go with Haunted.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Jim Chinnici show. Our pal Dave Alvin is in the house with us, and we're going to play a song from his new project, Bone Monkey, called Haunted. If you guys want to call up, 1-877-917-5263. Phone lines are open. If you don't call, I really don't care because I'm having fun talking to my friend anyway. So we'll be back in like 3 minutes. See you in a few.
What you say, girl? What would you do if I haunt you all your life? Would you go insane, accept it as truth? If I haunt you all your life, nobody will
And we're back. Johnny figured out how to turn the microphones back on. That was Dave Alvin and Bone Monkey with the track Haunted. And it's a haunting riff. So that's a perfect title for that song. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, this is exactly what it should be called. It's exactly what it is. And you sound great singing on it, too.
Thank you.
So now I want to bring up something because you kind of mentioned it before, and I didn't want to gloss over it. All these guys are retiring now. And is it weird that our generation of musicians that we either looked up to or were a fan of are just kind of disappearing? And do you think for some of them it's definitely time? Or do they have some more gas left in the tank and they're just punching out because they're sort of on top musically?
I mean, it's hard to say with everybody. I mean, there's definitely people running on fumes.
For sure.
I don't
Agreed.
necessarily mean talented. If you're talented.
Talent is talent. It's just
your talent. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean, look. I mean, I saw Van Halen at Jones Beach a couple of years ago, and David Lee Roth is phoning it in. I was very happy to see it. I enjoyed it. I'm not but could they keep doing that over and over again? It might get a little weak. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's not singing. He's just hanging out up there, having a great time. And it's good to see Dave having a great time because he was the best frontman from that era.
Ever.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's hard to, it's like if you brought somebody who wasn't, they'd be like, I don't understand. Like, what's this? Who is this guy? What's going on? You'd be like, hey, you had to be there, But I don't know. Honestly, I know a lot of people would disagree with me. I do think it's time for a lot of these people to kind of hang it up. And it's not because they're bad, or it just people aren't really coming up with new ideas or doing anything, and they sort of dominate the landscape of these big shows and stuff. But they're done. They really are done. Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
I totally understand what you're trying
I'm
to
not
say.
judging them. I'm just saying it's like, yeah, but you're not writing any. You're not doing anything. Like, it kind of like, you've stopped evolving as a band. They sort of, everybody, I think, is in danger of becoming like a Vegas act. You know what I'm trying to say?
Well,
like,
a parody of
where they do,
themselves.
where they do like, a week at Bally's. You know what I'm trying to say? And
Yes,
I don't know.
do.
I mean, there's nothing wrong. Vegas is fun.
No,
so if you
I
go
agree.
and you see, I mean, Wayne Newton is the guy who like embraced that. You know what I'm saying? I guess
Yeah.
Britney Spears embraces that now. Like,
Sure.
I'm not putting any of that down because it's still it's a show, but
And
it's a different thing.
Right.
It's a different. I mean, that's really where Kiss should be, like in Vegas, like just doing Kiss, right? You know
Right.
what I mean? Because they're not. I mean, I guess they put new stuff out here and there, but like nobody's interested in it. They just want to see.
And they're the first ones to say it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is.
So I think you're at that point where, I was saying this to somebody a while back, and hopefully I didn't say it on this show because I'd hate to repeat myself. But yes,
all right
I am
if you
getting
do.
old. But a few years ago I went to see Motley Crue at Nassau Coliseum,
Right.
and honestly, I mean, I like the first two Motley Crue
I know
albums.
you're a big fan of the first
And
two records. Absolutely.
when I was, when that was the shit back then,
Uh-huh.
I practiced being Vince Neil. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
it's all about that. But I never, I really never liked the stuff. I mean, I guess I sort of liked Theater of Pain, but that was kind of a faggy break-off point for them, like in reality. You know what I mean?
Yep,
But there's
that's
good,
fair, man.
But there's good songs on that, like City Boy Blues and
Sure.
stuff like that. But that was kind of, and then, from there I kind of like lost interest in them. But, I always have it, if you grew up liking somebody, you know what I mean? If
There's
the
always
movie,
that soft spot in
even
your
if
heart.
you see that movie again and you're like, wow, that movie sucks, but I love it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I can't believe it. This is I'm sitting here watching The Gate. You ever see that movie?
Johnny Depp? Oh my God!
I can't tell you how many times I've sat through the Batman 66 movie, and it is complete garbage, but it's the best fucking movie of all time.
Yeah, but so we all love this stuff because it's part of our past. So
Yeah.
anyway, what I was saying, so I go to so my wife, she likes Poison. You guys have a Poison cover band, right?
Yes, I do.
And the New York. Actually, I was interested. The New York Dolls were opening.
So was I.
So of course we get there and we miss the New York Dolls. And I'm like, well, that's really kind of what I wanted to see, but I don't know how good that would have been because they're kind of at the end of it too. But but then I sat through Poison. I'm not a big fan of Poison, but then Motley Crue came on, and honestly, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, they still sounded like Motley Crue, and they were doing big show, and Tommy Lee had his roller coaster thing and all this
Sure.
stuff. But there was a certain point I looked around, and you're like, wow. I remember going here, same place, Nassau Coliseum, when they opened for Ozzy with Bark at the Moon, with
Jesus.
Shout at the Devil.
Good Lord.
Right? I was at that show.
Getting a chill.
Wasted opened up, Pete Way
Pete
solo
Way Wasted.
project. Okay,
Yes.
so that's how long ago this is. And Molly Crew came out and just fucking, it was just like, you just wanted to run out and strangle somebody. Like, that was amazing,
Right.
And then, and Ozzy came on with Jakey Lee, and he was one of the first people with laser lights. Like, they had really cheesy lasers.
Oh, like the Barrel lights and shit like that? Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
But and I just remember going to that and what like a fucking experience it was, like talking to girls and all this stuff. And then here you are, years later, you're at Motley Crue in the same venue. It's the same guys playing. It's the original band, right?
Right.
Like, and the experience is just not the same
Nope.
at all.
Right.
It's a bunch of old people, really. Right? There's some young kids, but their parents dragged them there. They're like, Mama, whatever.
Couldn't get a babysitter.
But the energy in the room was not there. It was like, I'm like, wow, I'm at like a concert my mother would have dragged me to, like a Roberta Flack concert back in the 70s. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not exciting. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
not about what they're talented, but it's, and they have songs. They're a big part of, rock and roll history. There's no
Sure.
doubting that. But you're like, this kind of sucks. It's just not the same thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that there's just a reality, like, nobody can really recapture what that was.
Right.
Because that was such a unique time that any of us who were around, we know that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? What it was
Absolutely.
like to go to Lemoore, East Brooklyn, Cat Club, Limelight, Gun Club, Raw. Like, you didn't even have to be in a band. You were a rock star, like, in those days.
Exactly.
You were like Vikings, like, running around, like, swilling beer and grabbing women. Like, it was ridiculous. Like,
was.
nobody even understands, like, how crazy that scene was.
Right,
You know
it was
what I
one
mean?
big party. The West Coast gets a lot of attention for what was going on out there, and by rights, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a real definitive thing about the scene that was going on here
hell
at the
yeah.
time. Because it was if not crazier because we were a darker, grimier city.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what makes it interesting. And there was more of a multifaceted sort of set of bands. You had your glam bands out here, you had your White Lions, you had all that, and that's great. There's no beef on that. But for every White Lion, you had a Circus of Power. You had a Law and Order. It got down and dirty, and that's what was always fascinating to me about the scene. You had Ramones that were happening, but you had a bunch of bands that were like the Ramones who were playing some of these clubs, and they were being put in front of these glam and hard rock
Yeah.
bands. It was a really amazing scene back then.
It was. And I mean, the best place to go back in those days was not even a music venue. It was Scrap Bar in the city.
I know. I remember
You
exactly
go
where
in
it was.
there, it'd be Lemmy, Joey Ramone, Richie Stotts from the Plasmatics, and then just everybody's just sitting there drinking. It's not like star fucking, like, it was just like a place, it was this little bar.
Right.
And it was the coolest place to go, and you could go there any night of the week, and it was always cool.
right.
You know.
And if you blinked, you missed it. If you didn't know, you didn't go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just how many times do you? I mean, even in this day and age, we both know where it was. You walk by it, and it just flashes back to you
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
hot
Oh,
minute,
yeah. It's so weird. 'Cause
You know?
It's like a gyro place or something.
Yeah,
I don't
it's-
even know what it is, but you walk by there and you're like, man, like, that's a shame. You know what I mean?
It really is.
But the point is, life goes on and things
Yes.
change, and somebody likes that gyro place more than I could ever like the Scrap Bar, probably. I don't know. But the
you're
point
right,
is, they're
though.
like, oh, those gyros are fucking amazing. But so I just think, it's just that's life. Like, things grow and die, and like,
Yeah.
I think, I'm not rooting for it, but I do think that the time has come
See-
for a lot of guys to kind of wrap it up. I mean, my thing was I would love to see, people evolve.
Right.
But then some of these people, I mean, I don't know how old Steven Tyler is. He still can sing.
Right.
He must be almost, I don't know, 60, 70 years
So
old.
Steve's pushing. I think he's 69 this year. I think he's pushing 70.
So you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
so I guess, I don't know that he's looking to innovate at this point.
Right.
But if he,
Listen,
decided to innovate, I would listen to that project. Let me
I'll
put it
tell
that
you
way.
the truth. What I would love to hear from Aerosmith, I would love to hear them devolve and do something like a Rocks or, or a fucking, even a Night in the,
Yeah.
Night in the Rocks, whatever it is. But just again, like to scrape away all the extra, those 5 guys in a room, 2 guitars, bass, drums, vocals. I'll take a piano because Tyler's playing it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all fucking in. You know, and I'm really starting to dig on old Aerosmith and old Alice Cooper, and it's all stuff that's really new to me. You know, like one of the last times we spoke, I was starting to get into the live records and stuff. And once I got Aerosmith bootlegged again as an adult, you know, because I had it when I was a kid, but it didn't have the impact on me after learning how to play an instrument and doing, you know, more than my fair share of gigs and stuff like that, where it really hit me in the heart. You know, and as far as getting back to the whole walking away thing, I always thought that Motley Crue did it the right way because obviously, artistically, they were finished. They were not going to, you know, if you were sitting around waiting for another Shout at the Devil, you've been sitting around since 1985 waiting for that, and you're not getting it.
Right.
You know, and when they walked away, good. You know, you still have enough of your reputation left over that you're those guys that are up there. Now, for myself, I'm going to see enough last show tours this summer. I'm going to see Slayer. And listen, I was never a Slayer fan until I saw them live. And I didn't see them live until 1996.
Right.
And just the intensity of the show. And then you start to listen to the music. And there is a melody, there's a concept behind it. For as, you know, as far as breakneck as it is. You know, but again, how are these guys going to keep it up forever? And their main songwriter died.
Yeah.
So that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not going to put out that quality material anymore. And the story, I get it, and it's time. And I'm glad that they're doing that. I'm going to see Elton John for the first time in my life. His tour is called Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. If this is a wrap for him, awesome. And I know he's one of the best entertainers of all time. I know he's one of the best singers and songwriters of all time. That's the show that I'm most excited about this summer. And for the second time in my life, I'm going to see Ozzy's No More Tours tour.
Yeah.
Because I went to the first one 25 years ago at the Meadowlands, got to see Motorhead and Ugly Kid Joe, and the only thing that I was mad about that whole night was that fucking Motorhead opened that bill and Ugly Kid Joe was in the middle, and I was furious about that. Wow. Ugly Kid Joe was a hit at the time.
Well, I remember that.
You know, but the whole
Really?
scene was falling apart. Yeah. So I was like, how could you be Ugly Kid Joe and look Lemmy in the face when you're walking like in the backstage area and be like, I couldn't do it. I'd be like, no, fuck no. You better put us on
Excuse me,
first.
sir, this is our dressing room.
Will you stop throwing up in here?
You better get the fuck out of my way.
Well, that's crazy. That's not right.
It totally wasn't right.
Nothing against those guys, but that's not right.
It was totally not right. And everything against us is fuck those guys. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you wrote this stupid song that you hate everything about everybody, and then to dick ride that hit, you covered fucking Harry Chapin. You know what I mean? And what happened after that? Not one fucking thing. So, you know what I mean? It's fucking Motorhead.
Motorhead, really.
He carries Jack and Coke in a guitar case.
It doesn't even matter what he can. He's fucking Lemmy.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
crazy.
Like at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking. If you're a platinum act and Lemmy, you're in the middle and Lemmy's opening. Fuck everything about what you sold. Please let me go on after us. Please, just do it. Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? And I got to see Ozzy mimic his vocals back in 1992 because I know who was singing backstage for him then, and I'm curious to who's doing it this time around. You know, I mean, I saw video clips, and again, I don't care if people think I'm a dick. I'm just going to be honest. I saw video clips last year when he first went back on the road with Zach. It was like taking ampfuls of mud and throwing it at the crowd. They were playing the song Miracle Man, if you're familiar with the tune.
Yeah.
Okay. Driving riff, very bright kind of sounding thing. It's tuned down so low that it sounds like somebody's trying to hold the record back on a fucking needle.
Right.
I was like, come on, man, why are you bringing this guy out here? Why don't you just put him on a fucking, on a hand truck, wheel him up to the microphone and let it go? Johnny saw the show.
Right.
He saw him in Chicago, and he's like, what did he do?
He just hold on to this. Looked like a little kid, like for the first time on stage, like he was nervous,
Right.
singing with the teleprompter. It was like, I'm waiting for him to fucking fall over. I felt bad for the guy. You know what I mean?
And then on the
Thank
flip
God Zach was there to pick up the show.
Right.
You
But
know?
then on the flip side of that, I just watched a Black Sabbath film not too recently for
Oh,
their
the end. Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did in post production, you know. But listen, I'm not trying to be a shit stirrer. Don't get me wrong. It's how I feel. Ozzy's fucking Ozzy. He's a legend. You don't need to do this. How much more money do you need?
Well, I mean, it tells you something that all these bands are wrapping it up. It's not that they all suddenly said we're done. the economy for that is collapsing. I'm sure they don't make what they made from these concerts
Let me
anymore.
tell you something. My tickets for Ozzy were almost twice the price of Elton John, and I got better seats at Elton John than I did at Ozzy.
Yeah, because you got it. But that's the thing. Some of these tickets, they're so fucking expensive because they have to. They got to pay the road crew. They got to pay for hotels.
Yeah.
But there's probably a point where people are like, yeah, I don't know if you can charge $500 for the last row. Like, how are you going to pay? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just not. I think that, the writing's on the wall for a lot of these people. And it's like, if you're Elton John, and I don't, this is not like judging anybody.
No,
but they're probably like, well, I'm not going to scale this down. I've been doing arenas for fucking forever.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not doing it, then it's time to hang it up. You know what I'm saying? Maybe some bands will say, nah, like, I just like to play, and maybe they'll move into smaller venues and stuff like that. But the big arena acts, that's over. It's I mean, there'll be different, Lady Gaga can do an arena, but it's a totally different kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you can lament it and be upset about it.
I'm not.
But it's life. Like, like we had our time, like with this stuff, and it's who kind of, I think, read it correctly and is doing it the right way is Robert Plant, because there was, those years when you would hear him come out and try to do Zeppelin stuff, and his voice really couldn't pull it off anymore, right? Because that shit's just so fucking good. Like, nobody can sing like that. That's
Absolutely
like,
not.
They made a deal with the devil. They literally did,
Exactly.
Jimmy Page, sacrificed the 13-year-old girl in a barn, and they were that fucking good. You know what I mean? They were like, we're going to steal everybody's music, and nobody's going to care. Yes! But they're the best. They're the best. I love Zeppelin. I'm not putting them down. But I think what Plant did is that he kind of reinvented himself, and he's doing, kind of more like Americana, kind of like
I love his stuff.
blues inspired, and it's cool. It's good. It's good musically. It's never going to be Zeppelin.
No, but it shouldn't
Zeppelin's
be
the
anyway.
greatest. You could argue who's the greatest band, but they're one of the greatest bands, right?
That's a fair assessment, sure.
And but I think same thing for him. He's like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to be like some senior citizen on stage, like going, ooh. You know what I mean? Like, there's a point where it will be ridiculous. He could probably still do it now. You know what I'm saying? But some of these, you see people sometimes, and you're like, whew. Like, I'm not a fan of them, but like somebody I saw posted once, like Don Dokken, you're like, dude, I mean, I can't judge anybody because if there's people will pay for it, maybe, I don't know, but so maybe that's something you got to do, or maybe you just love to do it. But it's like, to me, it's like, yeah, but that don't sound right. I was around in those days. I heard that. I'm pretty sure I saw Dokken once, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just not happening. Like, you know what I mean? So change it up. Even a guy like back then, I'll tell you another guy who read it right was Gary Moore. You remember that guitar?
Yeah,
Oh,
Gary
wow.
Moore.
Awesome.
Still got the blues, yeah.
And he
love him.
at a certain point, he changed it. He was like, I'm going to be a blues guy. Like, you know what I mean? And he was a great guitar player, and he went that way. And you know what I'm saying? You can find a niche for yourself. Like, you know what I mean? It's like acting, Like, there are actors, you have Marlon Brando in On the Waterfront, and then that's a completely different guy than The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, right? Like, because you're not going to be that guy. You're not going to be the young guy in fucking perfect shape. I mean, he went way the other way. But I'm saying,
That's fair.
but he was great. He did some fucking great shit that way. Like, you know what I mean? So you can evolve. It's not like pretentious to say you evolve. You know what I mean? So people use it, and it sounds pretentious because you're like, yeah, that's just a bad album that nobody likes. You didn't evolve. It wasn't conceptual. But, I'm not naming names. But I'm just saying, but you can, as an artist, evolve and embrace the process. And I think that's,
And that's the way you should do it. You should evolve. I can't imagine at this age right now singing the songs that I wrote when I was 19 and trying to figure out words that would like rhyme with pussy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's
Mussy.
like it's ridiculous, And even when we had started doing original music again, one of the goals I was half of the songwriting team, and one of the goals was not to write cheesy lyrics because I'm not 19.
Right.
I could write a song about being drunk and being an angry drunk or fucking, that hardened guy who needs to be like lit up to just fucking make it through the day. But I can't write a song about being drunk, laying around in beer cans and fucking the slob that's next to me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't look myself in the
well,
mirror.
it's not genuine any. Like the point is when you're a young buck out there, like just fucking going mad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Whether all your Roach stories are true or not, people might believe them. Like,
Yes,
you know what
of
I'm trying to
course.
say? Like,
Yes.
you know, maybe he did fuck her. I don't know. You know?
Right.
But now, like, you know, you got to be careful. Like, yeah, I mean, you know, because you can just easily look ridiculous. Is the point. You know what I'm
absolutely, you
trying
could
to
look
say?
ridiculous, you know. And you mentioned the Dokken thing before, and I was watching video clips of some.
No
of the
offense meant to Dokken. Or
No,
Dokken
and it's- but
fans,
it's-
'cause, you know, but I'm just saying.
But it's valid because, you know, I watched some of the video. They brought them over to Japan for a massive amount of fucking money because
I
that's the
think
only reason why.
what the thing I saw, and it was just
Yeah.
like, okay, so you got paid for this.
Yes, and that's what it was because those four guys would
So
never
I
play
can't
together
really
again.
judge that. I don't know.
No, but that was the whole thing. And I'm listening to it, and I'm like, and one thing I always loved about that band, they had great 3-part harmonies, fantastic, and they knew how to craft a tune in that hard rock sense, and they brought a little bit of that European metal thing into it. Always dug it because it was different than every other LA band. And when I'm listening to this, I'm like, ooh.
But you know, it's sort of like that's the fear. I think if you're an older musician and you're playing that
Right.
kind of music, you don't want to. You know,
You don't want to be that
you
guy.
don't want to be ridiculous. Like
Yes.
that quote, the guy from The Godfather. I cannot afford to look ridiculous. You know.
I was just thinking the same thing.
You know, but that's what he's saying basically. Like he's an
Yes.
established guy. He's and he's not going to get fucked over by this. Who's supposed to be like Frank Sinatra in the movie. He groomed this girl. He taught her to sing. He's fucking her, not this guy. You know what I mean? Because nobody wants to be an old guy looking ridiculous.
Right,
I mean, that's
course
really
not.
the fear of everybody because
Right.
we know we're getting old.
Right.
You don't want to be caught limp dick standing in the shower, like, crying into a soap on a rope. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Where your old man balls hanging down to your ankles.
Nobody
yeah.
wants that image of themselves, even
Right,
if we're
no.
getting older. So that's what I'm saying. Like, and I think there are bands out there that are dangerously, perilously close to fucking looking ridiculous.
Yes, and that's why I always think, like, if you're going to make a decision to walk away, man, you better use that stick-to-itiveness because,
Yeah.
If you leave and you come back, it's just fucking, it's not good,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, as the humongous Kiss fan that I am, when, you see Ace Frehley, who took off 40 pounds all of a sudden out of the blue, and he's hanging out with Gene Simmons every day of his life, and they copyrighted the statement, "The End of the Road." I'm praying that it is. And only because, again, I love them. There's, they can't do anything wrong in my eyes. Even with replacement members, I'm happy because I'm seeing at least a good facsimile of Kiss. I'm happy about that. But there was a time to be like, you know what? How much more can I do?
Yeah.
There's $500 million in the bank, 150 million records, and we're not writing Detroit Rock City anymore. And it's not it's not a slag on their talent. It's just not, you did it already.
Yeah.
How much more can you do with it? It's the same thing with AC/DC. My heart was praying. My heart of hearts was praying that Angus was just going to go, you know what? It's a wrap.
Time. It's time.
Right. You did your tour with Axl. He sounded fantastic, and you got to break out a bunch of the old shit that you never did. I'm fucking totally game for that. And I thought Axl handled it like a champ.
Yeah, he sounded good.
He did. But when it's you and no one else that brought that magic to that circle, and Malcolm was your main songwriter, it's
Well, yeah.
but that's in my you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no reason for that band to go out and be a parody of itself.
Well,
you
and,
know?
and it's not that, I think it's fair to say with a lot of these bands, they're not the band that you were into anymore.
Right.
It's not, one thing with White Trash that we prided in the reason, you were done is because we were always the same guys. There was the weird moment where we all, slept with each other's wives essentially, which was, the second White Trash album and then the Hash album,
Right.
everybody kind of, went rogue there for a minute.
Right.
But those are all people that still were that worked with us and lived in the neighborhood. So, there was like a White Trash family.
Right. It wasn't just the core four. It was everything that was wrapped around
But,
it.
and we came back with the original guys, and the only thing that really varied in that is that the two guitar players switched because occasionally Ethan would step out, and Craig, who was the second guitar player.
Right.
I mean, they were roommates at one time. Craig was Ethan's, guitar tech. So they were friends. I mean, it wasn't like we just went out and let's get Warren DeMartini to be, you know what I'm trying to
Yes,
say?
it was part of the white trash
There
DNA.
was a logic to it, even if maybe like people didn't get that at the time.
Right.
But the point is, there was a family of that, and once we came back, it was the same. The only thing that changed occasionally was the guitar players,
Right.
Because, really, because Ethan didn't want to do it sometimes,
Right.
and then Craig came in, and then he, everybody at this point in their life, you have other things going on. Now
Sure.
Craig lives on the West Coast, and unfortunately Ethan passed away.
Right.
So we discussed like, well, we could, you discuss the idea like, do we go on? What do we do? And it just, you just like, what are we doing? Like seriously, what would be the point of that at this point?
I agree.
To go play, the Beach Hut with, you know what I mean? Like opening for Striper or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, who fucking cares anymore? Like, that's not what it was. That was
Right.
a family thing. We did it. The one thing that sucks is we were going to do like a tribute to Ethan. We were going to do one last show.
Right.
And the fact that didn't happen is the only regret I really have about the whole thing.
And you know what? I was always all about that too. I
Yeah.
always thought it would be a good idea. But you know what? This date, that anniversary, is going to come up every year. There's no need. You can never say never in the sense that you
can
never know.
Say never.
You
But
know?
it's weird, and it was the one thing I think kind of changed how I look at playing live. The people, I'm not talking about in the band.
Right.
I'm talking about people outside of the band that were peripherally involved in the event.
Right.
You could see the motivations were all wrong, and like people coming at you sideways with stuff, and a lot of weird shit happened there. That I know Aaron really just felt like I don't want to fucking do this.
Right.
This is ridiculous. And I kind of said, dude, I would do it under any, but yeah, it seems like this is just a big fucking mess.
Let me tell you something. If anybody understands where you're coming from about that and all the bullshit becomes an event like that, talk to that guy because he's totally fully aware. There's definitely stories that can be told for sure. But we definitely understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean? And it does. It takes the fucking good out of everything, and that's a shame of it all because people either got something stupid to say, or they're going to do something stupid, or they're acting stupid. And when it comes down to it, when it can't be, when the taste is so bad in your mouth that it can't be fixed in that moment, it takes a lot away from
Well,
it. I
especially
get it.
because of the weight of what's attached to these things.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be something where everybody's gritting their teeth and feeling like bad about it. Like, you know what I mean?
You want to have good memories on it.
Yeah,
It's a celebration.
You're doing something. It's like a weird, like, kind of eye opener, like, because you're like, wow, like trying to do something good here, and like, how is this going so fucking wrong? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right. And it's
why? Like, but it's weird because people like, there's a lot of opportunistic people, and I
Yes.
think like it's weird, like when shit like that surfaces in situations like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, the only thing I could say is, like I said at Ethan's funeral, we the tribute is to always remember Ethan. He's not gone. He's always going to be here.
Yeah.
We're always going to remember the guy. Like people who even knew him, barely knew him, have funny stories that they tell me and stuff. And he was a unique person, and I'm sorry that we weren't able to pay tribute to him that way, but ultimately, that's not,
there's
doesn't matter,
a lot to be said about a person. And again, I didn't know Ethan that well. I knew him very peripherally myself. We talked a few times. He was always very cool with me. We always got along. But there's a lot to be said about a person that when their physical state is gone and you don't hear one negative word about that person, that tells you the kind of person that person was.
That's true.
And that, I always have my ear to the grindstone. There's not one person that ever said one fucking negative thing about that man. And God bless him, because that goes to show what kind of person he was.
Absolutely.
And the legacy that he leaves behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and
that-
that's what's important, and you keep that alive. And that's my main. Mainly, hopefully people still discover his music. Oh, and the thing is, this is sort of plugging, but I don't mean it that way.
Right.
Because our records, you couldn't hear them because they were out of. They weren't being distributed because Elektra went away, and it was questions about who had the masters and stuff.
Right.
But now, the first two albums are on iTunes and and
Excellent.
Spotify and all that
That's
shit.
fantastic.
Rhino picked it up. Totally had nothing to do with us. They probably inherited it through some like merger, like or whatever.
Sure.
But they
Sure.
did distribute it, so it's out there. And the only reason I mentioned that was because because I encourage people to listen to his playing because it was almost like he's from outer space on our project. He just comes in like this metal god into this like white boy funk band and just fucking shredding. So if you haven't heard his stuff, definitely listen
and
to his
folks,
playing.
for sure, again, I'm not saying this as a friend or anything like that. I'm saying this as a fan. The guy was a very, very unique musician, a very unique guitar player, and he had his own thing.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you could piss in the wind and hit 100 guitar players that sound the same. Ethan was not that guy.
No.
So you would do yourself quite well to go check out some of those recordings, and since you can find everything on iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff, go by all means go check it out. And you will be pleasantly glad that you did, and you'll call me up and thank me. Don't call me because I'm not going to answer anyway. Just leave a message. Do that. We'll be better off. But I'm telling you, you'll definitely thank me for sure. Okay, I want to get into the next song.
Yeah.
From Bone Monkey, and I think we're looking at Deep Red Juiced.
Yeah, well, it's Deep Red. Unfortunately, in the title, that was should have been in parentheses, juiced, but it's Deep Red.
Right.
Okay,
The
that's
mix
fine.
was juice. That was my engineer's note, like juice. But
Well, that's fair.
yeah. By the way, just actually to take the moment, I want to thank Glenn Lorio, who's the engineer on this project. He's been doing a lot of work for me. He worked on the White Trash records as an engineer, and he's also like a sick drummer. He's in a band, hardcore band, No Redeeming Social Value.
Oh my God!
God,
Really?
you
Are you
what?
fucking
Yeah,
serious?
yeah.
Do you know my glam band back in the day? We used to do shows with those guys.
Oh yeah, they're still they're recording
They are
an album.
The fucking
They're fucking
greatest
great.
band in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world. I love those guys.
The only song I remember is Bone Smuggling Man.
They put on the best live shows I've ever seen.
Oh, they're awesome.
Oh
They're
my
awesome.
God.
And Glenn he was on when we came back as a band, he worked on 3D Monkeys in Space. He did most of the engineering on that. He did the guitars on Suburban Purgatory, and and anything I'm not recording in my basement by myself, Glenn's recording it, and he's mixing, and it sounds well. I think it sounds great, but you can listen and decide for yourself.
Absolutely, you guys got to check this stuff out, man. I'm so glad that you brought that up. I love those guys.
Yeah, they're great.
And they used to give us, because we were the last wannabe glam hard rock band on the planet in Queens at the time.
Right.
And when we used to play shows with them, they used to give us props all the time. Be like, you guys got a lot of balls to sit in front of our crowd and play that music. And we didn't know any better. We just wanted to do shows,
Yeah.
So it was very cool of them to have our backs like that. I will always respect them and always love them and always pop them whenever I have a chance. So I'm totally glad you brought that up. Those guys fucking rule.
Yeah.
All right, so this is called Deep Red. This is from Dave Alvin's project, Bone Monkey. We will be back in about 3.5 minutes.
Got to find a state of mind and emotion. I'll pull your willowed on into the deep red. Time to die. Look in my eyes, it's alright. Now all I got to give, stripping the deep red. Got to try.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, live again on the Jim Chinnici Show. That song was called Deep Red by Bone Monkey and Mr. Dave Alvin hanging out with us tonight. Thank you for coming in again, as always.
Yeah, I love it. Anytime.
That's a very, very good track, and the groove is just like, that's a stupid groove, and I
Thank
mean
you.
that in the most complimentary way. It's got a nice feel to that. And so, but again, it's not heavy metal music, which is great. And because I really want to hear you sing heavy metal music, like I do.
I think the that mug bug shit I did was probably the closest to heavy metal. But I would do heavy. I would love to do like real heavy. I actually have some stuff that I had this project that I wanted to call Thorny Tusk, and it's like very like tuned down, evil kind of shit. I always pull back because but I shouldn't. So I'll convince myself to do it now. But I can scream and do all that. So I kind of wanted to do something that was just like screaming, just screaming evil, like get that out, whatever's left of the evil.
You should do it, man. I'm telling you, that would sound rad, and nobody would expect it, and that's why it would be so hot. Right. When I had Dan Nelson in here a couple weeks ago, I had to play them the title track from the new Striper record. They're doing death metal screams in the fucking chorus, and I'm not even kidding. Swear to God. Swear to God. The first time I heard it, I went, this is not real life right now. Like, I'm just, even God's like, what? And I listened to it again, and I'm like, I still don't even know if I like it. I love the fact that it's different. And the saving grace of the whole track is the drums. Do you have that? Could you pop it on real quick? Yeah. I keep doing this to people and making them listen to this because it's so odd. It's just like, it's such an out of left field kind of thing.
Striper at Lemoore East. That's when they came out.
Lemoore East.
That's
all the girls walking around in like black and yellow. That was their thing. But they still do that. Like
Yeah,
actually they did. They went on tour. The last tour that they did the whole black and yellow.
I never
thing.
got the connection between Jesus and black and yellow.
Yeah,
he's a Steelers fan.
Turn it up a quick bit, Mario. It sounds like Ghost here.
Yeah.
And the best part about it is the drums. Robert Sweet is killing it. Get to that chorus, Mario. Oh. Go to the chorus. Not the verse.
Here we go.
All right, kill it because I don't want to get kicked off the air. But, I mean, come on.
Hey, they're going for it.
They should. I don't.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I could dig and respect a band like that because they're still trying to challenge themselves. They're still putting out different music.
Yeah.
And they're and that fucking guy can still sing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's what's always interesting because some people, and again, not to put
you're not
names
slagging
into
on
it,
anybody, right?
But some people are still fucking good. You know what I mean? And then you see them and you're like, wow, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, and then there's other people you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to go there with you, but
Don Dockin. No, just saying.
But again, it comes back to what we said. There's a lot to be said for a certain time to walk away. And just from my own Striper story, the first time I saw them was at the Ritz in New York City in the summer of 1990.
There you go.
And Trickster was opening.
Trickster.
And they were very bouncy, happy to be there, guys. I'm friends with those dudes. Oh my God, I sound like Eddie Trunk, but whatever. It's irrelevant. But, when I talk to them and I think about back then, I'm like, so fucking different than it was. But they were really the happy to be there, guys. Right. And it was fucking hysterical. Striper throughout the Bibles and everything. And I was so not into it. I was like, this is horrendous. And then for the last song of the night, their very last song, they did Van Halen's On Fire with 4-part harmonies in the chorus. You got a fan for life right here. I'm in.
Wow.
Yeah, that was weird when those guys came out because I remember it didn't matter that they were that it was this Christian metal thing. I just remember at that time for me it was like any new band I was like, oh, I want to hear this and go see it. And then and I remember that it was like a big thing. And then at some point you're like, I'm not sure that I understand it. Right. And I'm not judging it, but I'm like, I don't know that I get all the connections.
But
black and yellow,
right?
Glam metal. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a narrative there. But those guys were really cool when they came out. I remember because they had that real clicky kind of drum sound and shit.
Sure,
And like that, the harmonies and it was.
The killer guitars.
Yeah, it was just good metal.
Yeah, good
like
shit,
you know what?
They had that Judas Priest style too going on with the leads and stuff
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
harmonies and,
And
shit.
the thing was in those days, and you touched on this earlier, is that you didn't judge music with some kind of warped political view, how
Yeah.
people do now, and it's hard. Everybody does it now, but
Yeah.
you weren't even aligned with one music. If you went to Lemoore East, you also went to Camouflage. Right, and you went to the city, and you see punk rock shit, and everybody was experiencing all that shit. There was a lot of stuff going on, early hip hop, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was just music. New York was music. There was a scene. There was a different night at every club, but there was just music, and that's what's really missing. People just fucking, again, from politics to music, everybody just kind of paints themselves into a corner. And the good thing about what you're doing, I was going to say this before and you brought it up, and I'm glad we came back around to this, is that it's very hard to have a conversation, on the internet or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's no political discussion, and I'm not going to get into political
No,
discussion,
that's
'cause I'd rather
fine.
kill myself than do that. But the point is, you just see people in one camp or another, and it's just those are people crazy, and you should die. And it's what the world needs, and what I think art, music, film is. You make a song, you make an album, a painting. You're starting a conversation. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
art can kind of do that from in a unique way.
From a
Because-
very ethereal kind of a place, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it comes from, it's more of a heart and an emotion thing as opposed to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why there's all different shades and colors to everything
But
that you
that's
do.
the trick, is to listen to it. But it's weird because it's just movies. Everything becomes politicized so quickly. Even if it's not political, people are like, well, why'd you do that? And that means that So having a show where people just come on and talk is a public service, and it's something. I hope you guys do this forever, and I hope the network you guys are building and all that shit becomes.
I really, what, dude?
A big thing, because you need, there are plenty of people doing podcasts and stuff like that, and that's good. They're not all good, as we know, but there's good people out there doing that I've worked with and stuff. I keep coming back to you guys. You guys are always good, but people need people.
Yeah,
and we kind of got to get beyond everybody judging and killing each other and all this shit. So just talking about it's shit that seems irrelevant or unimportant. It's important. It's important to talk about a girl in a halter top with big tits. It's important to talk about Stryper. It's important to talk about why Pabst Blue Ribbon is still a good beer, even if I'm sitting here drinking IPAs. You know what I'm saying? There's so much that you can talk about.
Yes.
Just put fucking politics aside is what I would encourage everybody. Just for a year, everybody just stop fucking talking about it. Vote however you want. Vote. Do all that shit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you shouldn't be political, but people got to stop killing each other, emotionally and social media wise, and just fucking get together and the thing. Look, there's people with substance abuse issues,
Right.
And maybe I'm one of them, right? But I'm not saying if you have a substance abuse issue, you should go have a drink. But what I'm saying is there's something to when people just get together and have beers. And it's something that is a big part of my life.
Yeah.
'Cause I like to just get together with people and have a beer and just drink and talk. But you can do it without the beer, obviously.
Right.
But I'm just saying that's if you could promote that kind of thing in the world, it really is a public service, because people just need to get together and talk and enjoy being around other people, because everybody's going to turn into the get off my lawn guy, and it's just it's getting old. You can't say anything to anybody, and everybody oh, well, then you think this, or people just gotta have a beer
And chill the fuck out.
or a chai latte or whatever the fuck does it for you. You know what I'm saying? And just sit down and have a fucking conversation, and don't judge everything everybody's got to say. We're all people.
Right.
We're all screwed. There's no hope. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So let's
And
be
stop eating
nice
Tide
to
Pods.
each other.
It turns.
Well, yeah, all right, I'll back that. Stop eating Tide Pods. But you know what I'm saying?
Get the organic
Hey, look,
ones, kids.
somebody brought up they used to eat live goldfish in the 40. Like, I don't know. The people do stupid things. Sometimes it's funny. You watch Jackass, and
Yeah.
there's no reason to do that, but it's funny.
Right.
So I'm not judging what anybody does.
You wanna,
But you
wanna
gotta get
shove a
together.
matchbox car up your ass? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Why is that my problem? You know what I mean?
Here's my thing, and I'm guilty of it. Every once in a while, I'll pop into a political argument on Facebook, and I'll just throw a comment out there because sometimes I'm like, I get annoyed of watching people just talk because it's mental masturbation. Then I really realize to myself that arguing politics on Facebook is like jerking off with a condom on. There's no point to it.
Nope.
There is none.
You know?
And it's weird because like the whole like just Facebook's. You know,
I mean,
Facebook,
that's the high end of it. You know what I mean? As far as social media
much
goes.
Shit like on there anyway, but yeah, it's like people, you don't need it. And the thing is with, you have, the trolling on the internet.
Absolutely.
People are just cowards and they just throw, they see a conversation and they come in and they try to ruin the conversation. It's
Right.
like people are like, I don't think people really understand the technology we have and like what's going on and
Right.
what kind of chemicals are being released in their brain when they're trolling or
Right.
posting these memes and say like I think we're it's going to be funny, like our kids are going to be like, Dad, did you post in 1994 a picture of Bill Murray? Like what the fuck was that? Like we were just doing shit like, yeah, I love that movie. But you know what I'm saying? Like I think people will get more articulate and sophisticated with it, hopefully, because if it just downgrade society
Right.
to everybody being like fuck you, then you got to go live in the woods or something.
Exactly. And it's funny, it's ironic that you say that because I feel like that people have lost the art of conversation.
Yeah.
In general, I'm not talking like you're with your friends, you're with your family, even if you're with your acquaintances, it's not so necessarily lost. But man, I do a lot of people watching. And you fucking, you sit there and you see especially I'm in Penn Station every fucking day. Every day. And I walk through Penn Station to go downstairs to the Long Island Railroad and make my way. And upstairs is the Amtrak. There's, on any fucking given moment, there's 500, 600, 700 people up there. If there's 700 people up there, 690 are on their phones. Did you ever think about turning around and just going, hey, man, how you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's gone. We did it when we were kids because we had to. We didn't have a choice. We didn't have social media. We didn't have all those things back then. And that's how you made friends. You made friends through going out. We'd be in Nobody's every weekend, just, again, a point of reference that the three of us understand. And people are hanging out doing their thing, and somebody says something, or you ask somebody for a cigarette, and it's a conversation starter or whatever, and it doesn't happen anymore.
Well, it's hard. And, you hope we don't lose that because if people
that's it.
can't relate to other people on their block and in the grocery store and whatever.
Right.
I mean, look, I hate many people.
I'm with you.
6 or 7 people cut me off tonight on my way over here, and I would kill them. I wouldn't feel bad about it. You know what I'm saying? But that's a special circumstance.
I'm with you.
That
100%.
happens several times a day. But ultimately you got to get together with people, and so I know some of this shit I'm dropping is a little preachy, but
it's not even though because
but I don't mean it that way.
No,
I
know you don't.
just hope.
To me, it's a common sense
hopeful.
point.
It's hopeful.
You have to be hopeful, but that's just it. Look, you're a father. You have a young son.
Right.
Johnny has kids. I have kids, and you want better for them than what we have now. And you look, and I try to be objective, and I try to use social media to be advantageous as opposed to, constantly fucking, going at somebody over something. You never see these fucking guys. You know what I mean? And keyboard warriors are the guys who never got fucking, or the women. I'm being, I'm closing off a whole section of humanity who never got attention in their lives. And with that being said, they're bitter now. So they're just going to constantly be a dick and constantly be a dick until you either ignore them and tell them to go fuck themselves.
Well,
but you're doing it by keyboard, and you know that same fucking jackoff wouldn't say boo to you, and that's the worst part about it.
But
that
that's
person,
what triggers it.
Yeah.
Is that you're like, what? But the proper thing to do in any instance like that is ignore, delete, goodbye, and that's it. Because there's no way to win those arguments because, it's not even about the argument anymore.
Right.
It's just somebody getting off on oh yeah, you like that? You like that? I fucked up your post. You like that?
And that's what's it. We've come down to a society of posts. When we were kids and we get into fights with other kids, 5 minutes later, you'd be talking to that kid, and it would all be over and done
Right.
with.
Right.
You know, and that's,
I made friends. You make friends that way, which is the
Exactly.
weird thing. Like you meet somebody and like you have some beef, and then like for whatever reason, when you're like, it all changes. Like it's like it's like there were guys that I've met in my life that it was like they were calling you out, like and if you pissed your pants, like you'd be tormented forever.
Fucking
but if you
right.
were like, fuck you, I don't care, fucking hit me or whatever.
Right.
Then all of a sudden like, all right, you like Iron Maiden? Cool. Then you're somewhere else. You're like, oh, I'm
Right.
friends with this guy now? How'd that happen?
Exactly. And then when you talk about it, months, years down
Yeah.
the road, it's fucking funny. I mean, when you were a kid, it was the end of the world. You know what I mean? Listen, I spent my growing up with a bowl haircut, fucked up glasses, and cheap clothes because my parents had no money, so they would shop at Robin's. Again, another local reference that I totally know you get.
Yeah.
So, and I got abused, rightfully so, but you grew past it, and now, I talk to those guys, and we're friends, and it's fucking funny now.
Yeah.
At the time, again, it was the end of the fucking world, but I see how bullying affects people today because now they do it over social media, and now these kids have no outlet, and they don't know how to communicate verbally
Yeah.
with anybody, and that's where those problems come in.
that's what
It's sad, but we can't. We have to teach them the lessons of where to come in with it. And again, music is a form of communication, and that's why you don't. You need to see kids writing songs and explaining their feelings, getting their feelings out on a piece of paper to sing a song to somebody. Because I mean, to this day, lyrics. There'll be a line in a song that has such a fucking profound impact on me.
Yeah.
I'll think about it for days.
Yeah.
And that melody that comes over that line of music, I'll know everything about it.
Yeah.
It saved my life when I was a kid. It saves my life when I'm a fucking 44-year-old man.
Yeah.
And that's, we need to bring that back, that organic
Yeah.
part of it,
Definitely.
It-
And that's to me the relevance of music and art and film. It's like you don't have to try to be political
No.
because you're the creating the thing is it is political in a way. Like I mean, but more importantly is you're starting a conversation about something.
Yes.
And it could be a conversation about something that by definition is not important, but now it's important. Like I started a conversation about it, and like you know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
Robins, we could probably sit here and go on and talk about Corvettes and everything.
Yes.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I met Batman and
There's
Robin in
all
Corvettes
kinds-
in 1978. It was the best day of my life.
you could talk about horror movies, and that's a rabbit hole
Sure.
you can go down. Like that, there's the big horror movies, then there's the B ones in the 70s, and then there's shit. You're like, all right, well, I want to stop talking to you now. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
But there's so many. There's so many ways to go with everything. There's so many rabbit holes to jump down.
Yes.
And stuff,
and I've always loved having an opposing point of view in my life where you could have a conversation with somebody. I try to think to myself, as I get older, I'm definitely more conservative in some of my views, but I try to remain as open-minded as possible because you know what? Whatever the conversation is, it could be politics, it could be beer, it could be cars. Everybody has that different point of view to
Right.
bring to the table. And I'm always willing to meet in the middle ground. All right, you know what? He's got a point about this. That's awesome, And there's just too many people ready to attack each other. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. And that is what kills that communication factor.
No, but you're right because if you had like, if you had a friend and you're both into cars and you're talking about muscle cars and you get together and you go to car shows and all this shit.
Yeah.
And one guy leans to the left and one guy leans to the right. It's not really a big issue.
No.
You know what I mean? You might go, you don't believe that, or the other guy would be like, oh, that's so fucking stupid. But it's not like I'm never talking to you again.
Exactly.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Because you have a friendship, and that's what I'm
Sure.
saying. These kind of interactions that take place, like you're just like, what the fuck, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like, fucking get a life. Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Because ultimately, it doesn't matter what side you're on. We're screwed.
We're screwed.
We're screwed.
We are fucking screwed. And
Do you own a sugar factory?
No.
Then you're screwed. Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
I don't own my
There's-
fucking car that it's outside. I pay somebody else so I can rent that.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I
exactly.
mean? It's just, it is what it is, And that's, again, the human element is what I miss a lot out of life, and I keep repeating this because it's the truth, and my wife pointed this out to me over the weekend. I'm a talker, and I get wrapped up in talking about things to people, about stuff, and that's, to me, that's fascinating. And we lose the art of communication, man. That's a fucking problem.
No,
it's huge.
That's what I'm saying.
Look, how is your son with technology?
Oh, he's great with it.
Now, but how is he interpersonal with other kids?
Well, he's good. He's. I mean, when parents don't. My kid is the best kid that has ever been born, and your kids can't compete. No. But he has a great personality. He walks up to kids in the park and just starts talking. Other kids are not that good at that.
That's
though,
what I mean. That's what I'm asking.
I know where you're going with it, because I've noticed that sometimes, like, he'll just go up and you see kids don't really know what to do. Like, they're in their little bubble. Even parents sometimes, they get uncomfortable. Like, they don't know, like,
right.
And then they probably see like a long-haired dad there. They get nervous. I always feel like, well, I don't know. Hey, this is how God made me. What do you
Do you know
want me
how
to
many
do?
times I've walked into a PTA shit like this?
Yeah. But no, my kid's really good with that. I think which I like. But he's good with technology. He loves his iPad, and But I do see that a lot of kids, and I don't know. I'm not a child psychologist. I couldn't tell
Right.
you. I don't
No,
know what
of
goes
course
on in
not.
other people's houses. But you do see this. A lot of kids, they're just they don't know how to get out of their own little bubble there.
Right.
And it's weird. I wonder about that all the time. Like, how does that work now? Because like when we were kids, you just went outside. Right?
Yes.
Like your parents just say go outside, and you would be outside, and there was no adults. And you'd play, TV tag or whatever the fuck you did, right? Like softball, whatever, stickball, kickball, whatever. Everybody
it
had a
was.
different thing. Electric tag, But the point is, you were just outside. We'd be outside in Fresh Meadows, and we'd all be playing outside. And at some point, somebody like, Rodney, Jenner. And then, everybody started disappearing, and like, you know what I mean? And then you'd go inside. But you think about it now. You would never let your kids just be outside by themselves.
No, not
can't.
at
And
the
it's
ages
sad
that we were. Yeah.
because of all the fucked up shit we know about now.
Yeah.
There's no way to do it because you're like, but even if there's like a 0.00001% chance that something could happen to my kid, I'm not going to do that, right?
Right.
Like everybody kind of feels that way now.
Right.
You don't see that. You know what I mean? Like it's like Halloween comes around. I remember we'd all be around like with shaving cream and it was just hordes of kids just around and
Everywhere.
Yeah.
But you don't see that. Even your house, like there's like a small number of kids that come to the house.
Do you know how much fucking money I spend on candy every Halloween? I'm diabetic for one. And I got all this fucking candy in my house, and my doorbell stops ringing at like fucking like 6 o'clock at night. And you're like, what? You know what I mean? And I still can't fathom it. It's been happening for years. I still can't fathom it after all this time. And in my neighborhood now, my son is the adventurous kid that I have. And he's 18, like he's well past the point of being a child. But it started to come into him when he was younger, and I was living down outside Philly. But for whatever reason, I had no problem with him I'm going out, gone.
Right.
But he would always stay in our development where we lived. He'd run around, he'd do his shit. I know he was always fucking off with his friends and doing something stupid, but I was happy about that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't mind whatever dumb shit he was getting himself into. And when I moved back to Long Island, I was like, I don't know how comfortable I feel with this. I just don't.
Yeah.
It was and you're talking about something that's 100 miles away, and it was like two different worlds, And I felt sad. I still feel sad because you don't see it anymore. Man, when I, growing up, you know how it is growing up in Queens and stuff, man. You were out on that street doing whatever you were doing, being dicks,
Yeah.
We used to go down, like, after the 4th of July, we'd hit Whitestone Park at 5 o'clock in the morning on July 5th. Me and my brother would come home with garbage bags full of fireworks.
Right,
because, everybody's drunk, so everything got left behind. We'd have so much shit, it was ridiculous. And we'd shoot, July 5th was shoot no fireworks. I lived next to the CYO day camp. And they busted these kids from whatever horrendous neighborhoods that they lived in. And we would shoot bottle rockets and shit and Roman candles while they were eating lunch right over the fence. The drugged out counselors would jump the fences and kick the shit out of us. But it was fun, and that's what we did,
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Now I can't even imagine.
Let me tell you, this is because you triggered a memory, and I got to bring it up because
Please.
it's the best thing in the world when you think about it.
Yep.
We lived in Fresh Meadows, which is very suburb
Yes.
kind of area, right? Mm-hmm. And they had these like little islands in between the houses,
Yes.
right? And they have lampposts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, who discovered this? We don't know. But we all knew about it because somebody told us. There was a street light, right?
Yeah.
And it was on the grass in the middle of the road. And someone, I don't know how they figured this out, figured out that there was, if you touched the street lamp,
Uh-huh.
and then the next guy touched your hand, and the next guy touched your hand, and you went long enough, there was a spot in the grass where there must have been like an ungrounded wire or something.
Uh-huh. Yeah, for sure.
And you would touch the ground, and electricity would like roll.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right?
That's just
And
basically
for years. I mean, I would do this right now if you guys are game to do it. I don't know if it still works. We would go there at like 2 a.m. You'd be drunk somewhere. You're like, electric pole. We go there, and it was never fixed. There was like some kind of loose electric wire in the ground, and like I can't tell you how many times we just joined a bunch of hands. Or you bring girls over there, you were like, "Oh, check this out," and they'd be like, "Ooh," like because they were you know what's going to happen here. But so like you think about that like basically they were just kids, playing with like live electricity
Exactly.
on the street. I mean, clearly it could have rained or something one day and somebody would have died. And this whole story. I don't know if it still exists or something like that, but that's it was so cool about growing up at that time.
I know the electric company that works out there intimately. It wouldn't surprise me if it was still like that.
Yeah. But I mean, if I knew my kid did that, you'd be like, "What are you crazy? You could die!" Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's sad because we start the show off talking about rock music. And it's officially like this could have been written by Neil Simon, like the old rocker guys. Like, you know what I mean?
Gray streaks in the hair.
The proof that we need to end arena shows. No more arena shows.
Now wait, the best question is the last question of the night. Did you write a song about the electric pole?
No, but I guess I got to now.
Now you do.
Yes, it's going to be a 40-minute song.
17 times signature changes.
It'll be like there'll be like an intro, and then like 40 minutes of electricity and beeps and whistles, and then like like Pigs on the Wing, Pink Floyd. They have that little acoustic thing begins and ends the album. That would be it. Like a little acoustic thing beginning and then just.
I think that you're onto something. It could be that could be your avant-garde album right there. Like Lou Reed would hear that if he was still alive.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Dude, that is a #1 record."
Well, that's where my head is at. That's what I'm striving for.
All right, before we punch out, what do you have to promote besides Bo Monkey and everything else you're doing in the movies and stuff? Give me everything. Give me websites. Give me the whole bit.
All right, so there's bonemonkey.net, and I'll get around to updating that. There's pictures and some music on there. There's a lot of Facebook pages, I guess, right now. We still have, the White Trash page.
You should
try
always
to
have
update
those,
that. We try to keep that memory alive.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Fans of White Trash page, which I don't run. One of our good friends, Sherry Johnson, runs that page. And then I got my page, but, Dave Alvin. And then we've got the Bone Monkey page.
Right.
And if you want to check out Mug Bug, which is a brief project I did, that's up there. I have a short video on xvideo.com. If you search for the name Dirk Donaldson.
And Mario will pop up.
But there's and the other thing is look up on YouTube. There's this Being British. Look up Being British, and that's the web series we're working on. We're going to promote that. Keep an eye out for Barry the Conqueror.
I can't wait to fucking see that, dude.
Thorny Tusk will be coming soon. Alien Guitar Orgy, and what was the other thing? And if you're ever in the area, you can probably find me at your local Popeyes buying fried chicken. I love that place.
Oh man, it's so good to see you, man. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for
in.
having me. I love coming.
Always, my
Hopefully I'll
door's
see you
always
again.
open to you, bro. You know that. I got your back 100%. I love your music. I love you as a person, and I never have better conversations with anybody,
All right,
bro.
cool. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Listen, folks out there, thank you guys for tuning in tonight.